Alkira and Infoblox have partnered together to simplify networking and security services for your multi-cloud, multi-region, and on-prem infrastructure. Let's look at a few use cases in this design video. Hi, I'm Hasham Malik. I'm the technical marketing engineer at Alkira, and joining me is Ahmed. Hi, Ahmed.
Hey, my name is Ahmed Abir. I am the product manager at Alkira.
So, Ahmed, in this design video, I would like us to go over the challenges that are experienced by a customer with their DDI services and what approach Alkira and Infoblox partnership is taking to simplify things for customers. But before that, I want to show the viewers the Infoblox and Alkira partnership blog to infoblox.com partners page and go to the solution note for Alkira. It takes us to the solution brief document, which at a high level covers the challenges and gives different use cases for the solution. But Ahmed, could you go over a little bit in more detail about the challenges?
Sure, Sham, let me just go over like what Alkira and Infoblox are solving those problems. Before I go over the challenges, and as you guys all know, Infoblox are providing the DDI services, and Alkira is solving all the problem in the cloud networking space as a service. So DDI service, what I mean is DHCP, IPAM, DNS, and DS security. All those services Infoblox are providing. Whether you have it already in the on-prem environment and you are migrating from the on-prem and expanding your network to the cloud environment, or you're moving directly to the cloud environment, in both cases, you can deploy the Infoblox and you can deploy a new grid or you can use the existing grid. But in either case, you have to deploy it manually and configure it. Typically, network services are deployed in the model of shared VPC and VNet, where same resources can be shared with different customers' department, example staging, testing, pre-prod, and prod environment. The challenges with those approaches, if you're deploying in different service provider environment, they have different constraints like routing tables, subnets, internet gateway, UDRs, pairing, etc., which work in different way. When instances are deployed in a multi-cloud environment, managing and operating these constraints become even more complex, and it becomes challenges to have an optimal design. In shared services case, it will increase the complexity when services are deployed in shared VPC and VNet design that needs to be shared with resources in different department in multi-segment environment. Anycast is basically bring the complexity in your routing configuration to support those advertisement preference of Anycast IP address from different regions that add the routing complexity. On top of it, if you're going into a multi-cloud environment, that will just add up because you have different constraints to provide the same network services across the different clouds. Either services are redeployed in each cloud or traffic will be backhauled to the on-prem environment. On the other hand, Alkira solution is built with simplifying cloud networking in mind and gives the customer a cloud agnostic experience. Customer can deploy the Infoblox services in Alkira as per their use case requirement from Alkira portal. They can deploy a single instance or they can deploy the multiple instances of the Infoblox and assign them any role. Alkira supports all three roles, whether it's a grid master, whether it's the grid member, whether it's a grid master candidate. Alkira solves all three roles for the Infoblox. On top of it, Alkira eliminates the need of configuration with each CSP construct individually with shared services VPC and VNet without compromising any security. So Alkira can deploy the Infoblox in a shared services environment with different Alkira segments. On top of it, customer can monitor the health of the Infoblox instances on Alkira portal itself. We are not stopping here. They can also configure the Anycast, whether they want to deploy the Anycast configuration, whether they want to use without the Anycast. Alkira supports both model. If a customer is going with the Anycast model, Alkira implements the Anycast routing between different Alkira regions with reliability. Customers are only required to provide the Anycast IP address in Alkira regions where Anycast should be supported. On top of it, our customer can control the traffic policies. They can control the traffic to the Infoblox services with the Alkira's intent-based policies or use the firewall services integrated in Alkira for inspection.
That's great, Ahmed. I'll go over a blog that we have posted on alkira.com that shows different design models. Infoblox can be deployed on Alkira in different designs. Customers who have existing Infoblox grid either on-prem or in the cloud, they can utilize the same grid master and deploy the grid members and master candidate in Alkira to be integrated with the existing grid master. Infoblox service on Alkira is deployed in per segment. Customers can deploy a separate Infoblox service in each of the segments or use Alkira's resource sharing feature to allow the cloud resources to use the same Infoblox service from different segments. Alkira and Infoblox integration makes it very simple for customers to deploy the Infoblox service and cloud networking in different regions. Customers can deploy Infoblox service in one region and extend it with the grid members deployed in the other region for redundancy and HA purpose. Let's jump into Alkira's UI and then go over Infoblox UI services. When customers log into their Alkira tenant online, they can see in which regions the cloud exchange point, which is Alkira POP, are deployed. In the network tab, we can see there are 4 CXPs deployed in 4 different regions. Looking into the US West region, we can see that the left panel of this CXP gives us the options to connect users inside, which is branches, data centers, any remote sites, and users from the remote access VPN connector. The connectivity options to onboard cloud constructs for AWS, Azure, GCP, and OCI. We can also deploy internet exit in the CXP that allows any resources on-prem or from the cloud to access the internet right from the CXP. The middle panel is Alkira's marketplace that allows the different services to be deployed, for example, third-party firewalls and Infoblox service for DDI. I've already deployed Infoblox service in CXP US West 1 region. There are 2 instances deployed. One is deployed as a grid master and the other is deployed as a grid member. We can see that the overall service health is green. Let's look at the configurations. The Infoblox configurations required to be deployed in Alkira is very simple. It consists of 3-level configurations: the service level configurations, the grid level, and the member instance level. At the service level, we have to provide the service name, have to select a global CIDR subnet block that is used to deploy the service and assign the overlay IP addresses. At the service level, we also need to select the segment in which this service will be deployed, the service group, the billing tag, and the Anycast IP address. The service group is basically the tag that can be used to define Alkira policies to allow or deny the traffic to the Infoblox service or from the Infoblox service to internet. Customers have option to deploy a new grid or use the existing grid. This service is deployed with the new grid where the name of the grid was provided, a shared key, host name. We chose what type of instance do we need to deploy, the version, and the grid master username and password. This grid master IP that is showing over here is from the global CIDR that we chose and is displayed after the deployment of the grid master. Once the grid master is deployed, we can choose to deploy the member instance. To deploy the member instance, we provide the host name, password, Choose whether we want to make this instance as grid master candidate. Choose the size of the instance, the version, and whether we want to enable the Anycast on this instance or not. We can deploy additional instances, and all instances will act as in active fashion. Once the service configurations are complete, we save the service and provision. To test the service, I'm going to send a DNS request from my host PC, which is connected via Alkira VPN remote access client in US East 2. Since I do not have deployed Infoblox service in US East 2, I will be accessing the Infoblox service deployed in US West. Important point to note here is Alkira takes care of the inter-region routing without any requirement from customer. Since I'm connected to the remote access connector in the corp segment, my DNS request will come from the remote connector to US East, and with the inter-region routing, the request will go to US West, an Infoblox service that is hosted within the CXP in US West. Before sending the request, let's verify a few things. I'm going to go to the grid master using this IP address. This grid master is hosted in Alkira CXP US West. In the grid configuration of the grid master, we can see there are two instances. The first one is grid master, and the second one is the grid member instance that was deployed in US West as well. The DNS service is enabled for this grid. In the data management and zone section, we can see that there is a domain configured, and this domain is configured to be as an authoritative on the Infoblox grid. Any DNS request for this domain will be returned with the A record of this server IP address. This server is hosted in an AWS VPC, and that VPC is onboarded using the AWS Cloud connector to Alkira. Now I will send a request for this domain from my host system. To verify that we are indeed receiving this request coming from my host, I'm going to go to in diagnostic mode and enable flowchart, select the appropriate group for my host that is connected through the VPN client, add my IP address to filter and also the DNS port. Now before I hit apply, I want to go to my command prompt and pick up the command. This command is basically going to send a DNS request on this IP address, which is the IP address of the Infoblox instance grid member deployed in the US West for this domain. We should expect the response back with the server IP address, which is the A record configured on the DNS service. Now, we'll analyze the flow, send the DNS request. And we can see that the flowchart has captured the DNS requests that are going to the instance in the US West. And on the DNS request sent from the host, we can see the A record is returned. Now, let's see if we can get the same response for the Anycast IP. The Anycast IP configured for this Infoblox service is 10.132.129. I should expect the same response back, and we should be able to see the traffic captured on the analyzer flow. We can see that the traffic is received destined for the Anycast IP address. This means that the Anycast IP is being advertised from the US West region to US East, and Alkira is taking care of that routing advertisement. I hope this demo was valuable, and if you have any questions regarding the Infoblox deployment in Alkira and the simplification that can serve you in your use cases, please reach out to us on alkira.com.